Hi, and welcome to the Super Sprouts video series from Hershey Gardens. I'm Sydney.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Lindsay. And today we will go over some basics of container gardening.
We'll be bringing you along with us to the Hershey Public Library for a container gardening workshop. Let's get started. Come on in. You can borrow our gardening gloves today. There's one black pot on a table for every family unit that's signed up, and you're going to build your own container. These are some things you'll need. You'll need containers. You'll need varieties of seed designed to grow in small spaces or even containers. You'll need soilless mixes. You'll need amendments if you're using garden soil, and compost. Any planter can be used for container gardening as long as it hasn't been used for anything toxic or harmful. You'll want to pick a container that has drainage holes. And so we're providing you with a very well-drained container. Kids in the room, how many holes are in your container? Yeah, there's 7. Yeah. And that's so that when you water your plants, that water flows through. At least once a week, you'll have to thoroughly water to make sure that you see water running out of the base of your container to prevent mineral buildup that will lead to an unhealthy plant. If your container does not have holes in the bottom, you'll want to select a liner, a plastic liner that does have drainage holes, and set it in the inside. Why would you want to grow a vegetable in a container? You need to eat food. That's a wonderful answer. I love it. You need to eat food. and so you're able to give it all that it needs with your container. So you can move your container to an area where you have a lot of sun. What types of soil do you think you need to use in a container as compared to like soil in the ground? Worm soil. Oh, compost. You could teach this class today. I love it. So worm soil is wonderful. And if you use garden soil, at least 50% of that should be compost. Worm soil is fantastic to use. A container garden mix, a potting soil mix, will allow your soil to be light, airy, giving oxygen to the roots. That's why worms are so important. They get oxygen to the roots. So your potting soil should not be your in-ground garden soil. Select soils that are labeled for a container. This is really light. It's not dense. Most of this is peat. If you wanted a more environmentally friendly option over peat, you could use a product that has more coconut coir. This mix is very light, but it doesn't have a lot of moisture in it. So you'll be adding the moisture to your pot. Over at our table, over by Sydney, we have your plants. So you'll want to make a hole and evenly space your plants out. Anyone in need of a third plant? I've got some basil and kale, 1 spinach here. You need some plants down there. All right.
They should be good.
Of course, after you transplant any vegetables in ground or in your containers, you'll want to make sure it's well watered to encourage the root growth. As it's a little early in our season here at Hershey Gardens, I'm going to take some of our leaf compost. You can find leaf compost at most local municipalities. You can also buy leaf compost, leaf mulch. It'll not only prevent weed growth, but it'll keep the plants warm just in case we have a cold spell. It'll also help maintain nice even levels of moisture. Cowpeas, beans, cucumbers, tomatoes, bush beans, they'll grow very well in containers as long as you select a determinate size or a bush variety. You're going to look again for words like compact, bush, determinate, container variety. It ensures that your plant is only going to grow to a certain size. It's going to be smaller than the traditional variety. So the root system will be smaller, the plant will be smaller, so you'll be able to have successful growth in a container. These plants here, these 2 plants are Space Master cucumber, and as you can already see, we have tiny cucumbers growing on these plants. Cucumber vines traditionally can be 7, 10 feet in length. These compact varieties, you can see these vines are less than a foot, and we have some growth. Also have nasturtiums here, as well as kale, bok choy, basil. They'll do really well in containers. And then we also have these covers. You're essentially making a tent, and you'll pull this around. There's a little tie here you can pull it taut so that you can at least have some frost protection. Some of the disadvantages to container gardening with vegetables is that the only nutrients that the plant has available are the ones that you're providing to it in your soil. Your soil cannot be kept from year to year when you're container gardening with vegetables. So every year you're going to need to replace your potting soil mix. You'll also need to make sure that throughout the growing season, you water regularly. Containers will need more water in the high heat of summer in direct sun than if you're watering in ground.
Thank you for watching this Super Sprouts video from Hershey Gardens.
We hope you have enjoyed and learned more about container gardening. Thank you to the Hershey Public Library for being our gracious host for our workshop today. This project is made possible by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services.
For more information about Hershey Gardens or to plan your next visit, you can visit us at HersheyGardens.org.